Social Assistance Living Alone Payments Amendment Bill, third reading.
Call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Airports, Cost Recovery for Processing of International Travellers Bill, committee stage.
I declare the House in committee for the consideration of the Airports, Cost Recovery and Processing of International Travellers Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker. Members, the House and Committee on the Airports, Cost Recovery for Processing of International Travellers Bill. The question is that Part 1 stand part. This is debate on clauses 3 to 5. I call Shane Arden.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Airports Cost Recovery for Processing of International Travellers Bill came about basically because 2 airports in New Zealand had been deemed to be international airports and then subsequently lost the ability to be an international airport and then found new contracts that potentially could start that up again. And of course, any airport at any stage could apply to the Aviation Authority and Customs and Biosecurity to become an international airport. And when that happens, of course, there is a cost. And so in the interest of making sure that those services would be able to be provided and the state wasn't going to be liable for costs that were short-term, it was decided that there needed to be a change in legislation to allow for the recovery of those costs. And so to that end, Mr. Speaker, this bill was promulgated and brought to the House. So effectively what it does is it gives the government that ability. The main objectives of the bill are to ensure international airports or requesters of non-routine services factor the border agency costs into the business decisions. So when say for example, an airport which I know is very close to yourself, Mr. Chairman, and is in my own electorate, the Hamilton Airport, applies to become an international airport if a carrier or a business venture is put forward in terms of setting that up as an international destination, and there's a lot of merit in the notion that that might happen at times because it would be a very credible alternative to Mangere Airport in the event of some kind of accident there or some kind of inability for Mangere to operate. And of course, at that point, customs officers, customs services, X-ray equipment, biosecurity people, aviation authority people, personnel with the expertise, etc., have to be recruited, have to be trained, have to be stationed there, and there is a cost for that. So the Crown, in its desire to manage its fiscal responsibilities sensibly, without having undue or large numbers of liabilities outstanding, have come forward with this suggestion, and I think it pretty much enjoys widespread support in the House. The bill completes the funding arrangements agreed with the aviation industry back in 2004. It builds on the original policy to provide a simple, clear and efficient cost recovery system. The status quo exposes the Crown to fiscal risk, as I said, and a large cost when international airports are set up or re-established. Under the current funding model, new international airports create a funding shortfall for the government border agencies. And of course, what we are always conscious of is the essential need, Mr. Chairman, to provide for much needed biosecurity services, as we are very vulnerable in that regard, as we are also with, of course, customs. And so what it effectively does is it removes that risk, that liability from the Crown balance sheet, but it also removes, I guess, a subsidy or an uncertainty that could be created in a business model if those costs were not included. So the bill came to the Primary Production Select Committee. We listened to the submitters. There were a number of them, and they raised a range of concerns. Those concerns were taken on board. Some of those changes were made at that point. And Mr. Chairman, I think it's a very smart move on the part of the government to move forward with the Airports Recovery Bill at this stage, Mr. Chairman.
I call Reno Cherukatani.